In this video, I'm going to show you some of the resources that I use when I teach poetry. Hi everyone, it's Emma Jane here from Football Land. I'm an English teacher here in New South Wales, Australia, and I've been teaching for a long time. I've had a lot of questions lately about teaching poetry, so I thought I'd just quickly show you some of the books that I use to help me when I teach poetry and talk about some of the other resources that I sometimes access as well. If you're interested in teaching content, especially anything to do with English teaching, then make sure you subscribe to my channel because I put out weekly videos on a Sunday all about my experience in teaching. So I want to show you today some of the books that we use in our school and that I use as well. The first one is called Poets and Poetry, and it's by Sadler, Hayler and Powell. And this book is really great. It's divided up into obviously different chapters on different poets. For each poet, it's got what their main themes are and their style of writing. It's got a really user-friendly and straightforward layout, and for the poems that they've got for study, there are questions, comprehension questions and activities that students can do. This has got a whole list of different sort of topics, poets and emotions, and it covers a variety of different poets as well. It's got Robert Frost, Ted Hughes, Judith Wright, Kenneth Slessor, Oodgeroo Noonuccal, Wilfred Owen, Bruce Dorr, Sylvia Plath and John Fulcher, Seamus Heaney, Emily Dickinson, heaps of different poets. There's the list of. This was published in 1992 and it's got loads of different kinds of poems and, like I said before, activities as well. So this is really useful, a really useful book. This one's recommended, user-friendly. The next one that I've got to show you is called Poetry Reloaded, and it's one of the Cambridge textbooks. They're always really good, I find, top quality, and it's got Blair Marnie as the compilation editor. This is set out in a really fun kind of a way with a lot of images, heaps and heaps of different poems and explanatory notes for students to use as a textbook. Also, you can use it as a resource book. It's got some skill building activities for some of the poems, and it's just set out in a really, really nice, user-friendly way. It's got Poetry Gets Started, Poetry Goes on Holiday, Poetry Kicks a Goal, Poetry Looks in the Mirror, Falls in Love, Poetry Has a Life, Poetry Goes to War, and so on and so forth. It's really good, nice and colourful and easy to read. So that one is Poetry Reloaded. This is my absolute favourite poetry book, and I've been using it since I can remember, ever, since I first started teaching. This is the second edition, so when I first started using it, I was using the first edition, and this one came out in 1997. Yeah, so 1997. I started teaching in 1996. So yeah, basically the whole time I've been teaching, I've been using this, and it's called The Power of Poetry. I absolutely love, love, love. I use this all through stage 4 and all through stage 5. It's just so great. I mean, it's riddled with different kinds of poems from all sorts of different poets. It's got example, it's got like annotations, it's got activities and questions that students can use. It's got traditional forms of poetry and it's got modern forms of poetry. It's got beautiful images, pictures. The layout is user-friendly, and a lot of different types of activities. The first book I showed you had a lot of sort of comprehension style questions, which are fine, but this has a lot of variety in the activities that it has for the students to do. Also, what I like about this is it's got kind of an introduction to what is poetry, and you can really take the time to explore the purpose and structure and forms of poetry by using this book. It goes through all of the sound devices and all of the forms of poems. You can see in the table of contents, can you see? It goes through each of the forms of the poetry, and I mean all of them, like as many as you can think of. And it even goes over the page. It teaches the kids how to analyse poetry, and also there's a whole chapter on poetic techniques. So I often use this teaching, and I also use it for revision for the kids. It's got visual imagery, the tools of poetry, using the right words, sound devices, you know, everything, all in one book. It's really good. Sometimes teachers tell me that they get a little bit confused, or they forget about how to teach rhythm, or sorry, what rhythms are in poetry, what meters and all that stuff. And this has a section This has a section on rhythm, which is a really great reference guide for teachers. So this one is highly recommended, and I've just used it over and over again so many times every year that I've taught. Also, there are heaps of websites. Just, Google how to teach poetry or poetry resources or poetry teaching resources, and you will come up with a whole list of websites that you can go and explore. I also use some DVDs which I'm not sure are available anymore. I've had them for a long time. They came from the ABC and they're called Arrows of Desire. It's got poets discussing the poem, the meaning of the poem, and different perspectives on the poem, and it's really, really good. They're all little tiny 5-minute video segments on different poems. So that's one that I would highly recommend if you can get your hands on it. Keep an eye out for it, Arrows of Desire. It may even be in your school library already, and I'd highly recommend using that as well. I hope that you found that useful. Those are some of the resources that I use right now. I mean, there may be other resources out there, and please let me know in the comments what your favourite books or other resources are to use when teaching poetry. I find these are great because you can just grab and go. They're user-friendly for both teachers and students. Of course, I forgot to mention YouTube is a fantastic resource, especially for if you're looking at more spoken word poets and slam poetry. Search in YouTube, slam poet winner. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about poetry. I am preparing a poetry Q&A video, and I'm hoping to release that next week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found the video useful. If you liked this video, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'm currently heading towards 1,000 subscribers, so it would really mean a lot to me if you would subscribe, and then you will get my content, my regular content, my regular weekly content. If you want to, you could even buy me a coffee. If you look under this video, I have a link for where you can buy me a coffee. It'll cost you $4 something in Australia, $3 something in the US, and I'd love for you to buy me a cuppa. You can also find me on Instagram at Kafootball Classroom. You can find me on Twitter at Kafootballland, and you can read my blog at WordPress, Life in Kafootballland, and I'm on Facebook as well at Kafootballland. Catch me in any or all of those places. And apart from that, I shall see you next time.